My brother stole my wife. It started with a simple dinner invitation. My brother had just flown into town and asked if I wanted to meet him. I hadn't seen him in a while, so I said yes, thinking it would be a quick catch-up over drinks. But the moment he arrived at the restaurant, I knew something was off. He wasn't alone. He walked in holding hands with a woman. My breath caught in my chest when I realized who she was. It was Claire, my wife. I hadn't seen Claire in nearly a year. 9 months ago she left me without warning, just a note on the kitchen counter that read, "I need time to think. Don't look for me." I respected her space. I didn't call, didn't message. I told myself she was going through something personal, that she'd come back when she was ready. But now she was here, acting like none of that happened. Like I was just some old acquaintance, not the man she once promised forever to. They both smiled like nothing was wrong, like I was supposed to pretend this wasn't the woman who used to sleep beside me. She wore the same necklace I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. My brother placed his hand on the small of her back, the same gesture I used to do without thinking. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just sat there, staring at them, trying to understand how the hell this was real. They toasted to new beginnings. I swallowed the bitter taste in my throat and raised my glass. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind replayed every second of that dinner. Her laugh, his grin, the way she looked at him, like he was the one she had loved all along. I opened my laptop and started digging. Old photos, tagged posts, trip confirmations. The lies unraveled fast. That solo trip she took to Vancouver last spring, he was there too, the same hotel, same dates. It wasn't a coincidence. It never was. Then I found it. One photo that burned itself into my brain. It was taken at the exact beach where I proposed to her. I recognized the spot instantly. The driftwood log we carved our initials into was in the background. She wore the same white dress she did the day I asked her to marry me. Only this time, she was kissing my brother. He wore the navy suit I lent him for my wedding. They looked happy, free, like I had never existed. Something shifted in me. I didn't want to yell. I didn't want to fight. I wanted them to feel what I felt. Cold, quiet, irreversible devastation. So I came up with a plan. Not out of hatred, but out of necessity. I would give them the truth, and I'd let that truth do what it always does. I didn't need fists. I didn't need closure. I just needed one moment, and the right file. I waited. I watched them from a distance. They posted photos together, captions filled with cliché quotes about healing and fate. Claire's family never asked where I had gone. My brother stopped returning calls. It was like I had been deleted, rewritten. But I wasn't gone. I was just biding my time. And when they finally announced the wedding, I smiled, because I knew it was almost over. The wedding was set for early spring, just warm enough for an outdoor ceremony, just cold enough to sting. They'd chosen a vineyard 2 hours outside the city. Elegant, intimate, exclusive. I wasn't invited, of course, but I knew the date, the venue, even the schedule. Claire's Pinterest boards weren't private. Neither were her sister's braggy Facebook posts. I knew everything I needed to know without saying a word. The week before the wedding, I uploaded a video file to a burner account. No names, no tags, just a title, "For the Happy Couple." It was barely a minute long. Silent footage, no music, no voice. Just them. Claire and my brother, together, in hotel rooms, on trips they lied about. All time-stamped, all real. I burned it onto a flash drive and slid it into a black envelope. I printed one word on the outside. Play me. On the morning of the wedding, I dressed like any other guest. Neutral suit, no flashy colors, no cameras. I parked far from the entrance and walked through the vineyard paths like I belonged there. I even nodded politely at a few people who passed by. Nobody looked twice. Nobody questioned why I was there. It was almost funny, how easy it was to blend in when no one remembered what you looked like anymore. They had set up the reception tent beautifully. White linens, hanging lights, champagne flutes lined up in perfect rows. A slideshow of childhood photos ran on a loop near the dance floor. They looked so innocent in those pictures. My brother with his crooked smile, Claire pretending to be shy. Somewhere in the background of one of those photos you could just barely make out my face, cropped, blurry, like history trying to erase me. I waited until the toasts began. Claire's father stood up first, full of corny jokes and forced sentimentality. Then my brother's best friend, slightly drunk, slurring through some college memory that made half the room uncomfortable. People laughed politely, glasses clinked. The atmosphere was thick with fake joy. That's when I walked up to the small media table, just behind the sound system. The laptop was open, unlocked, ready. I inserted the drive and clicked play. There was no announcement, no fade-in, just the screen going black, then flashing to the first frame. Claire straddling my brother in a hotel bed, kissing his neck, smiling at the camera, laughter in the background. Her voice calling him baby. A timestamp blinking in the corner. 10 days before she left me. Then another clip. And another. Her face. His voice, a whispered joke about keeping it secret a little longer. It took the guests a few seconds to realize what they were watching. At first, they thought it was part of the slideshow. Then the sound kicked in. Loud, crisp, undeniable. Someone gasped. Someone else dropped a glass. The laughter in the tent died immediately. Claire was still holding her champagne when she turned toward the screen. I watched the color drain from her face. My brother froze, literally didn't move. He stared at the screen like he was waiting for it to glitch, to crash, to disappear. But it didn't. It played all the way through. 57 seconds of betrayal, crystal clear. No narration, no commentary. Just the truth they'd hidden behind smiles and tuxedos. The final frame was a still photo, Claire kissing him in my old apartment, my couch, my blanket, my life. And then the screen went dark again. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. Nobody clapped. Nobody laughed. The playlist didn't resume. The tent just sat there, heavy with confusion and disbelief. Guests stared at each other, unsure if they'd just witnessed a cruel prank or the most brutal wedding sabotage ever pulled off. Claire dropped her glass. It shattered against the floor, a perfect metaphor for the illusion they'd tried to build. She ran toward the laptop like she could erase what everyone had just seen. But it was too late. The truth had already soaked into every corner of the room. Her face was pale, trembling, mascara running down her cheeks. She looked at me. Actually looked at me, for the first time since she disappeared. Her lips moved, like she wanted to say something. An apology? An excuse? I didn't care. I turned and walked out. My brother followed me, or tried to. He got about halfway to the vineyard gate before someone grabbed his arm. Maybe his best man, maybe someone's uncle, I don't know. All I heard behind me was yelling. He shouted my name once, but it sounded pathetic, like he was already losing. Like he had finally realized what it meant to betray someone who never fought back. Outside, the sky was grey and quiet. I didn't rush. I let the gravel crunch under my shoes like applause. I passed cars, vines, rows of flowers arranged for a love that wasn't real, and when I reached mine, I looked back once. Just once. The tent still stood, but the celebration had been gutted. I'd made my point. Not with violence, not with shouting, just with truth. Cold, clean, and public. I never heard from Claire again. No calls, no texts, not even an email. She went offline for a while, deleted accounts, scrubbed posts. My brother? He sent one message, weeks later. You didn't have to do that. I didn't reply. What could I say? That he'd earned it? That some endings don't come with closure? Just silence. People say time heals everything. I don't believe that. Time just buries it deeper, until the wound becomes part of you. But sometimes, on quiet days, I remember the look on her face when the screen turned black. And in those moments, I don't feel pain. I feel clarity. Some betrayals deserve to be exposed. Some stories need to be told. Even if no one says a word,